Hello and welcome to the Long Dark Nights podcast. I'm Kirk Steven.
And I'm Jitwire. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Archimedes. Please welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Good to have you here, bud.
yeah, definitely. Let's say hello to chat real quick. So I see Faye and Pickle Lil, Pyro, I'll be the one, Bumblebee, and John. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, hello. Yes, Pyro, we added the crackling fire as requested. So, see, we do listen to feedback.
Yep, we do. Can everyone hear us well?
Hello, everyone. I see a couple of people I recognize from YouTube. Piccolo, Fire Angel, Pyro. Good to see everyone.
Yeah, I think Piccolo and I are both following your card survival series pretty regularly.
Yeah, I get a lot of comments from you too.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that one. That's been fun. And then there's Toasty Bits. Hello, Toasty.
Hey, Toasty. Well, I guess let's go ahead and get into today's topic, which is going to be weight management.
I love going to Weight Watchers. It's always my favorite place to go.
Yeah, right? Weekly Weight Watchers meeting.
Yes, it's almost like going to... Can't do this. Hey, SF Plays. Hey, Sam.
Hey.
Welcome. Good to see you.
I feel like this one is a very broad topic. There's a lot of ways to approach it.
Mm-hmm.
There is, and I think one of the I have a decent question to kind of maybe start this off, and I'll ask the two of you, and you guys can go in either way. But I know there's one particular item that I can look at and say, over the last couple of years of playing and getting more experience and what have you, there's one particular item that I've learned that I don't need to carry as much of or need to carry. So I would propose that question to you two. What's an item that you've learned that I don't have to have in my hip pocket or in my backpack when I'm traveling about the Great Bear Island region?
Oh, you're going to love my answer to this. I actually have several, but the first thing that comes to mind is antiseptic.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I would definitely.
And you're talking about the brown bottle thing of antiseptic.
I mean, any type.
Oh, any type of antiseptic.
So
you're talking old man's beard and everything.
Yes, because it doesn't need to be applied right away.
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting. So, and also, Kirk, I guess our background is not there.
Oh. I don't have it muted. And I can hear it. I've got it on monitor. I'll check something, but go ahead and answer.
Yeah. So for me, I guess something I've gotten over recently is having to carry as much wood around on me. I think you kind of find this like, oh gosh, fire is so important. And you want to pick up, like every single piece of firewood that you find and every single stick. And I think I've really learned to like pull back on that, specifically for a weight management point of view and learning, what's the most fuel efficient and what's actually worth it to carry around with me. So I think that's going to be mine.
Yeah, I have
go ahead,
many other answers to give too, but let's go ahead and hear yours.
My biggest one is it's got to be just not having to carry as much food. I think we get too crazy about carrying food, and just in recent runs, you learn that your stomach is more like a gas tank than it is a stomach, because it doesn't. Your stomach doesn't care if it's completely full or 3/4 full or half full. It doesn't care. There's not like a satiation type deal where you kind of feel hungry, you kind of feel any of that. So if you eat you fill your belly up and then take enough food maybe to get to where your next destination is, especially if you have, multiple safe houses or whatever, you can cut a lot of weight on that. Just, basically emergency food. Even though I'm still bad about it, it's one of the things I've noticed I'm trying to break.
I guess another thing about food is that food in your stomach doesn't weigh anything.
True.
So you kind of have a certain amount that you can carry for free.
So if you load up before you leave, especially if you've got a decent, storehouse of food, you can take a day's worth of food with you, which isn't that much, and you save a whole bunch of weight on that deal. So that's one of the things I think I've learned over the last couple of years and, doing creating and all that stuff is like, I don't need to carry, 15 cans of tomato soup with me. I can leave them someplace and come back to them.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. So there was one thing I was curious about, Ark. Whenever we were talking about this one, you said you had some controversial views on what to carry in weight management. Could you let us know some of those?
Well, probably my most controversial take. I can't decide if it's going to be the lantern or the cooking pot and skillet.
Mm-hmm.
Those three items are things that I see no point in ever carrying, essentially. Because they just don't provide enough value for the weight that they cost.
So do you just carry torches instead?
Yes. And I mean, the big issue that a lot of people have with the lantern, with the whole idea that you might not have one is, well, what if you need to go through a cave and you don't already have a torch lit? That's going to be one precious match that you'll lose. And so I think that's why it might be a little bit controversial.
Yeah, but you tend to chain your fires quite a lot, right? So...
Well, that's true, but then depending on the playstyle, and there are times when the wind comes or you just got up and you haven't had to light a fire yet. So I'm pretty free these days with my match use. It's just something that I realized at some point. We see experienced players, those of us who watch, we see them conserving their matches. But when was the last time you ever saw an experienced player get even close to running out of matches?
That's true. It's been a while.
And especially if you're being, judicious about using like a mag lens if you're outside or whatever, you can use matches more, freely for emergencies and lighting a torch if you're being judicious about, using the mag lens to light a fire if you're close to your base or whatever. So yeah, I could see that where you probably carry, way too many matches and then, being afraid to use them.
Yeah, and the other thing is, runs don't last forever, even if they could theoretically last forever. Some people play to hundreds or thousands of, they just have these really, really long runs. But even in that case, there's an argument to be made that for the first 100 days, you could freely spend matches. And then you'd still have 500 or 600 left for when you really decide to clamp down for the late game. So
yeah, that's very true. I just want to look at chat here for a bit real quick. Check in. Hi Koi and hi Grape Nut, great to have you guys here. And Pickle Lil says she has a controversial view. You don't need a weapon, which I would definitely agree with that. You don't need a weapon because I think you could probably get by. Wolves are probably your biggest issue. So you could probably really get by with torches and some stones if you really wanted to. You can outwalk the bear. The moose is easy enough to avoid. What do you guys think about that?
If it only worked against the Aurora rabbits, I'd be okay with that.
And for food, I guess you've got like wolves killing deer occasionally. You can take rabbits out. You've got cattails.
It's
I mean,
definitely
you eventually
something you
want
could
one.
get around. You could definitely get around it. I mean, if you think about the early game, like in Interloper, when you don't have it, you're relying on torches and any, other means anyway, or walking the dog or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely doable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as long as you have good knowledge of like breaking pathing and stuff like that too, I think you could quite easily make your way around without weapons. I tend to think the hatchet is actually a very overhyped item. Carrying a hatchet around with you all the time.
Oh, I love my hatchet. I won't go anywhere
do
without
you?
my hatchet.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah, because I mean, the only thing you need it for really is the scrub brushes in Hush River Valley. And then, like, wooden stuff you can chop down with a hacksaw. I know it's better in a struggle, but we have other things now, like the survival knife and the cougar knife, that actually do better in a struggle. So I kind of feel like the hatchet has been kind of nerfed a little bit in that sense.
Well, I think the nice thing about the hatchet is it's available much earlier than like the cougar claw knife. So it's a strong way to keep the wolves off you if you do get into a struggle. But the main thing is it just does almost everything. Like if you took a hacksaw and combined it with a knife and combined it with a hammer, and then even the hatchet does some other things, like it can chop certain things that the hammer can't. So it has all of those uses, and the only thing you really lose is the metal harvesting from the hacksaw. That's the only thing that you don't get. I guess, and the knife can do pillows and stuff to get cloth, but that's a really minor thing. You can always get cloth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that leads into your thing about people on the long game. And myself, I'm horrible about the long game. When I get past 100, 120 days, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for a new run. So, the like matches and all that stuff, I don't worry. I burn matches. I don't care about cloth because I'm not the type of person that does a 500-day run. I don't even understand that yet, although I'm trying to learn that. But yeah, I can see where like one tool that can do most things could be more important, especially in a shorter, maybe 200 or 300-day run.
So then I'm curious if you carry a lantern with you.
In current run, I do carry a lantern. I have the Spelunker's lantern that I carry with me. I'm bad about carrying the lantern, but I'm also the person who will make 2 torches instead of pulling 20 torches out of a fire, because it's lighter to carry 2 100% torches than it is to pull a whole bunch of 30% torches out of a fire. So
I do like that. Yeah. Sometimes I'll make 1 and then carry like 3 or 4 of the small ones because you use those up pretty quickly. But rather than having like 10 torches, I'll carry just like 4 where one of them is full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's really nice now that you can do that with the torches, because before, like, lantern fuel was finite versus now you can get it from fishing, so you can refill your jerry cans and everything like that. So, or I think maybe, no, you could always get oil from fishing, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you need a stick, there's the cloth. What's the odds you're going to use all the cloth in the game?
Well, and it's renewable through
beachcombing, ruined clothing, because you're not gonna, once you get your clothing built out, everything you find is cloth at that point.
Yep.
So John in the chat says lantern, yes, always carry fewer torches. So this is kind of why I said that this is a controversial thing to say, is that I don't carry the lantern at all because it weighs a full kilo and you have to carry fuel. So that's like the weight of 4 torches right there. So I can just carry 2 extra torches and forget the lantern, and I'm saving on weight.
I could see that argument. I could see that.
Yeah, I could too. I was actually doing that at the end of one of my runs. I actually ended up ditching my lantern and started just carrying torches for that reason, just because it's so much weight.
And I
and
did
then
the
extra
same thing
fuel
with
for
like
it.
the mag lens and the fire striker, because
Mhm.
it's like I had so many matches drowning in them. It's like, why do I need to carry this extra weight? So
Yeah.
Oh, that's a trick that I love because the fire striker only weighs like a tenth of a kilo, and it's effectively like 30 matches, depending on how much of it you have left. I like to carry one of those, and then I'll just carry a single pack of the matches with me, and I can't possibly run out because I always have the fallback.
Well, that's a good
the fire
idea.
striker.
That's a good idea.
I like that one myself.
I'll probably copy that. Gonna gank that idea, Ark. I'll be the one.
Go ahead, go ahead.
It drifted up a bit. He was asking how much water you should carry. So I think it depends on how far you're going. I like to keep like 2 liters on me if I'm traveling between regions, but other than that, I don't think you need to carry that much. It also depends on the difficulty too and how high your drains are. So like or Dead World or Nagoa or something like that, where the drains are very high. If I was going to go a really far distance and I didn't really want to stop, I'd probably carry a little bit more. But I don't think you need to carry as much as people probably think you do.
Yeah, I typically carry between 1 and 2 liters. I just drop until I have 1 plus a fraction. And I think the thing is, it doesn't really matter if you're playing on Pilgrim or Nogoa, because if you're playing on an easier, then you can afford to, like if you run out, it's not the end of the world. You can just be thirsty for a while. And if you're playing on a really hard level, then you'll need a fire every few minutes, and so you can make more water at all times. So I don't really ever see a need to carry more than that. Unless you're in that crazy late game, I never spend a match. Like, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I was going to point out one here from Toasting when he was talking about an unpopular opinion. Probably, you should never carry the rifle unless you're going to hunt after tougher animals. And I know, like with the stalker run I've got right now, my whole idea with the rifle is not to carry it around and strategically place them in bases where I am going to hunt with it. So I agree with that. If you're not going after a moose or bear or whatever, and you're using the rifle in a lower level, there's no need to carry it around. It's, you know.
Yeah, no. I always, if I'm on stalker, I'm carrying the revolver with me, and you get so many bullets for the revolver. I mean, I would say you could probably get by with the revolver and 20 bullets in a region, and then leave your rifle at like your main base or whatever. And then once you're going to hunt a bear or a moose, then go back and get your rifle and use it.
Okay, so I have one for you guys.
Oh, yeah?
There is one item in the game that I think if you wanted to play optimally and you wanted to live forever and you wanted to make sure that you did not get killed, then you should always carry this item. But almost nobody ever carries it. Do you know the item that I'm talking about?
I do not.
I'm thinking, and I'm not sure. I'm going to answer incorrectly, so I'm going to say I don't. I don't know.
You can just throw out a guess if you'd like.
It's not the rabbit hat, obviously. So
no, it is not the rabbit hat. And no, Pyro, it's not the flare gun. It's not the bedroll, not the water tabs. I like the answer. I like the answer.
Yeah.
I like the answer of the water tabs. You should always carry water tabs.
Hey, I have an advertisement for the aqua tabs. The water is so pure you'll think you're drinking from the toilet.
Wow, I'm really surprised that nobody has gotten this yet in the chat. Although I don't know, maybe it'll turn out that people don't agree with me. But the answer is the ballistics vest.
Okay, that makes sense.
I have just recently gotten involved with the ballistic vest on Stalker, so I can see that being an important piece.
just to be clear, I never carry it either. So I think there's a kind of a split here between what is the optimal thing to do and what is fun to do. And so the problem with it is that it's not fun to play with the vest because you're weighed down with this 6-kilogram item that takes up a valuable slot all the time, slows you down, everything's horrible. Just for that, you know, like 0.5% of the time that it would save you from being killed. And all of us collectively, for some reason, just say, I'll just take that 0.5% chance or that 0.1% chance, you know, that a wolf attacks me, and then while I'm trying to get into my shelter, another wolf attacks me and ends my run in this extremely unlucky way. You know, it's happened to all of us. It's preventable, but we're just not willing to pay the weight cost and just the constant annoyance of that item.
Now, I've seen you use that on your Nogoa run. So is that typically what you do on like Nogoa, is you'll do the 100% armor with the ballistic vest?
I think that was mainly an experiment that I wanted to do where I actually had a goal, I think, for that particular run where I wanted to get the 100% protection and then wrestle wolves just for fun. But yeah, I could see, and I think I'm not hardcore enough to play that way, where it's like, oh, I go around with 100% protection all the time so that I can't possibly be killed. But I could see using it maybe for like a hunting trip. I don't think... Does anybody know, does the 100% protection work against the cougar?
I was going to say I have a really good anecdotal story with that.
Okay.
So when Jetwire and I were doing the preliminary, we were doing homework, I guess would be the best way, because Tosi gives us homework all the time. We were doing homework for the cougar, and so Jetwire and I had not had the experience with the original cougar. So we, after watching Zach's video about it and going to the Deadpools thing, we figured out how to do the Steam database and get to the old cougar. And Jetwire spent time and was able to get to the point where the cougar appeared, and through the dev console gave us all the equipment and everything. So we got to a point where you had 100% gear. And I kept re-engaging the cougar over and over again just to see, you know, like, does this thing ever give up or whatever. And I think I got attacked like 5 or 6 times, and I finally got to the point where it was shredding the leather and things like that. But I mean, I was able to survive at least a half dozen attacks before I'd even think about replacing or repairing anything. So it will hold up over time. Now, granted, this was with the first cougar, but I think the attack is similar or the same. But it will definitely hold up over time, but it does do a number on the leather goods.
Yeah, I'd have to try it on 2.0. I know it did work on 1.0, where if you did get 100% protection with the ballistic vest, it would save you a lot of trouble and heartache.
Someone might have been able to save their stalker run if they would have done the ballistic vest.
Yeah, yep. Oh, I hadn't been to Blackrock yet.
There's your excuse. Now you can go to Blackrock now on your new run.
Yep. Ian Toasty Bits is saying, unideal weapon loadout. Go. Oh my gosh. Unideal. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a moment. Do either of you have an answer for that?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't typically play Stalker and below, so my weapon choices are much more limited.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to what modes you play, because I know I play, you know, differently depending on what level. So much more free-willing with the Stalker run. It's like there's so much loot, there's so much nonsense. It's just, you know, I'm instead of being a loot goblin, I'm a litter bug. I'm throwing stuff. I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd probably have to say 3 stones and a noisemaker.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be pretty unideal.
Just enough to get their attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can say I'm not much of a fan of the noisemakers. Like, I know I made this Timberwolf video a while ago and everyone's like, you forgot the noisemakers. And it's like, they don't even exist to me at this point. Like,
That's how I feel about the fire hardened arrows.
really.
Just because, well, first of all, they take up weight, right? So it's like this extra thing. But also, if you have them, like, once you have them, if you have them equipped, you can accidentally try to shoot, like, a wolf that's charging you with the wrong arrow. So it's just like having them at all just sets you up to fail. As I see
we've
it.
seen this over and over again with Zach. How many times I've watched Zach's videos where he's done that and accidentally had the wrong arrows out.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody
Yeah, I
that
think
needs to wear the vest all the time. How many near-death experiences he's had too?
Well, Zach plays fast and loose. Like, I think most people who watch him probably know, like, he's not trying to play, like, super optimally. He's trying to, like, keep it interesting and
He's enjoying the game.
give the game a chance. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So, which is fine. I actually admire that. I have a really hard time playing that way. So I almost wish I could be a little bit more like that.
You should just play Stalker then. Then you have no cares.
There you go.
just get in Stalker and
Yeah. When's the last time you've played something under, like, I know you tend to like Nogoa, but when's the last time you've played, like, a lower difficulty?
Well, lower than Nogoa, I mean, certainly my longest running series, the Permanent Fire Challenge, I would describe that as being, well, it's easier than Nogoa in a sense, because it's just interloper, and you can starve. Like, I actually used starvation a lot in the first several weeks of that run, just because I needed all the fuel.
Wow.
But I'm trying to think of anything I've done that's just more of a casual playthrough. It's probably been a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
you should introduce him to your Grimloper.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've heard about this arc, but
I think I saw the community post. This is this is a sort of harder loper with passive wildlife.
Yeah, it's basically pilgrim wildlife. It kind of fills in the gap where you were like anti-Dead World because there's no animals, but this puts the animals back in, but they all run away. So kind of a silly twist on it. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to playing with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been fun. I have started recording, by the way, for Grimloper. It's been fun. It's been very interesting. Very, very different. Because it's like you hear a wolf, like, like walking in something, and then it's like it runs away, and you're like, oh, okay. And I thought of my most unideal weapon loadout, the hammer as a weapon. Just carrying the hammer around for all your wolf struggles. That would be
Oh, there's a video of somebody killing a wolf with a hammer.
Oh, really?
Because it doesn't cause bleeding, but it does do I don't know exactly how it works, but it does like hurt it. So you can chase the same wolf down over and over again and eventually kill it with a hammer.
Blunt force trauma.
So that would be another use for that 100% protection loadout.
Mm-hmm.
You look like one of those guys that trains dogs for the police department.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you guys have any particular strategies for just to steer the topic back?
Yeah, we are getting on topic,
when
but that happens all the time.
Yeah, when you're at your base and you've realized that you just have too much stuff, like how do you deal with that?
Well,
Go ahead, Jabbar.
yeah, I tend to go through, what I'm gonna try and need immediately, and then drop essentially everything else. So, and I always try to keep like it depends. If I have crackers, I'll keep a couple boxes of crackers on me. If it's cattail heads, if that's what I have, then I'll try to keep probably around 24 of those on me, just for emergency purposes. But try to drop, pretty much everything else that's unneeded. Like, I've really been learning, like, not to carry my canned goods around with me as well, just because they are so dang heavy. Like, every single canned food item in the game is just, it's a weight suck.
Yeah, I think it's the pineapples in particular weigh twice what the other ones do. Pineapples are half a kilo, and the other canned goods are a quarter. So I always try to.
Yeah.
Or peach, pinnacle, peach. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I always try to eat those first.
For sure. And John makes a good point. The category of total weight is also helpful. So, like, filtering by that.
Kind of becomes a what can I live without deal. Yeah. I was going to say, I subscribe to the Zach Nafane inventory management system where I look at my inventory for 5 minutes and go, oh, I don't need this feather. And then he runs off into the thing. He always cracks me up with that one. Sorry, Zach. Love you.
Yep.
Yeah, I find those, like, just going down each of the categories to be really helpful too, because you don't have as much to look at. But also, it just gets easier with practice. Like, you start to learn certain things. Like, when I look at that top fire management tab, I try to drop anything over like 5 or 10 cattail heads. And I want maybe like 2 books just for the easier starting. And then I want a certain amount of coal, depending on how hard the game is. I always keep coal over any other fuel because it's so much lighter.
Well, you get more bang for your buck, essentially.
Yeah, it's like 0.3 kilos, I think, for an hour of fuel and
20 degrees.
20 degrees, yeah. Whereas I think cedar is the next closest thing. That's also an hour.
Yeah, but it weighs so much more, and you don't get as much time. It's like pound, right? Or
yeah, I'm trying to
kilo.
remember. I think it weighs a half kilo, so it's quite a bit more, almost twice as much. And that's the next most efficient fuel. Everything else is even less efficient than cedar.
Yeah.
So the idea of carrying 4 fire logs is not a good idea then.
No. Gosh. Oh.
That's a tough
Where
one
do
to
you
learn
even
early
find
on.
4? Where do you even find 4 fire logs? I'm not sure I've ever seen that many.
Yeah, you need to go all over
You're
the
not
place
looking
for
hard
that.
enough, Ark. You're not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I'd have to say, taking away, with like what to do without, is trying to figure out, what are you doing for that moment, and if like you're just recently in the Stalker run, I'm trying to set up a base in Pleasant Valley, and it's like I don't need all this stuff, and I start dumping. And it's like, you don't need all your antibiotics. You don't need all that. I didn't think about the antiseptic, and that's a good lesson from earlier when we were talking, because it is a risk, and as long as you can negate the risk in time, which mostly we can stumble back home and take care of that. But keeping a few items on you, and you learn that, oh well, I didn't need to carry 4 gallons of water, or I didn't need to carry all this stuff. And I think as you play and as you learn, you start to pare that down a little bit more and stop becoming the loot goblin in your backpack, and you start leaving stuff in the base, kind of like what you were talking about with the firewood. It's like gather it up if you got the room, if you're on your way back to your base, to dump it off and use it when you're there. So things like that, I try to think about, better management, what I'm doing, where I'm going, why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this is something I really started to pick up on in the Frankie series. That's the permanent fire challenge, because that one was kind of unique in that I always had to make it back to my base every day. There was no option to, oh, there's a blizzard, I guess I'm stuck here. No, you have to go through the blizzard, you have to go home. And so not only was carry weight really important, but I could reliably know that I'm going to be back at my base, or I'm going to be traveling through certain areas, because if I don't, then I've lost the challenge, which means I'm dead anyway. So that's kind of where I really put together the pieces with the antiseptic, where it's like, if I have the antiseptic at base, and maybe I have it at a few key travel points, and I kind of built a whole system off of this, where I would take locations like the transition from Mystery Lake to Forlorn Muskeg, and the transition to the ravine, the entrance to the dam, the mine that goes to Mountain Town, right? Like all these places that's like you're going to pass through one of these places. And if you leave at each of those places, 5 cattails and 3 pieces of meat and a few bottles of water and some antiseptic and antibiotics and painkillers and whatever else you can think of, tinder, coal, all these things that you might need. Well, now those are things that you never have to carry, or at least you don't have to carry as much of, because you'll always be passing by one of those. So I haven't ever played like a really long run, but you could theoretically do this for the entire map. Like every transition from one region to a new one just has all those things that you need, and then you don't have to carry nearly as much.
This may be a foolish thought or question too, but is that maybe what the rock caches were kind of designed to be? You can store stuff in them. I don't know what the storage weight is. I've never really even built one, but that's kind of what you're talking about in a sense. Is you're dumping caches into transition areas, which, like, you're right with your Frankie's fire. In fact, Pyro's asking if you can explain what the permanent fire challenge is, and I'll let you talk here. But I could see where you got to max weight as every ounce, every kilo, because you're carrying firewood back to keep this fire fed.
Yeah. So just to answer that real quick. So the permanent fire challenge, there's a few variations of it. There's one that several people have thought of. I know Zach has said that he might do it at some point. Blades TLD has talked about it. I've seen a few other people. I can't think of their names. But it's basically a one match challenge where you only get the one match at the start of the game, and then you have to like chain it around as you go. But that's not the challenge that I'm doing. The one that I'm doing was inspired by that, but it's because I was looking at the stats, and I noticed that there's a stat for longest burning fire. And that's a single fire. And I thought, well, wait a minute. What if I just start one fire at the beginning of the game, and that fire has to stay lit for the entire game? And that was the idea behind that. So that fire's name is Frankie, and she lives in the fishing hut closest to the camp office in Mystery Lake, and is over 100 days old right now.
And if you're not familiar with it, Archimedes' link to his channel will be in the descriptions, and we'll add it, we'll pin it. But yeah, it's an interesting run. I went back, I kind of jumped in late when I first saw it. I had to go back to the very original one because I wanted to see how it all started. But it's a fascinating thing, because you have to really pay attention to not only just the weight, but I noticed like when you were doing that, you're like, you can only walk for half the day, knowing that you've got to turn right back around to get back in time to put fuel on the fire, because it lasts 12 hours, correct?
Yeah, so it's a little bit tricky. I've actually learned more about how the game works and different strategies just from this, just from that one challenge than I have probably from like all my other playtime in any other things, because I've learned about like routes, where to goat, what the most efficient way to get between places is. And to answer Pyro's question here about so you just can't leave the region, well, actually you can leave the region, because it's possible you can get about 2 regions away in 12 hours. Sorry, in 6 hours. So I can actually go from Mystery Lake, I can go into Muskeg and through it and into Broken Railroad, go to the hunting lodge, harvest cloth, and turn around and come back and get back in time to keep my fire going. And I actually thought I was going to be able to do a lot more. I had originally planned to go to the far territories and summit because I was going to take advantage of the burn bonus from outdoor fires. But unfortunately, that does not work when you're outside of the region. It's kind of a weird bug almost with how the game works, that it doesn't take into account if you're outside of the region where your fire is.
You actually have forged tools in that too, which I thought was impressive.
Yeah, there's just enough time to walk to Spence and I think you get about 7 hours to forge, maybe 8 if you really pushed it. So I can forge like a hatchet and a knife if I really want to stretch things. But usually I'll just do like a hatchet and a couple arrowheads. Bumblebee, it's 12 hours at a time, right? So you can fill it up to 12, then you leave and come back, and then you could keep adding fuel to get it back up to 12, and then you just keep that going.
That's nuts. I mean, I haven't actually watched that before. I'm gonna have to watch it now. That sounds really interesting, Arch. So, and
well, I won't spoil the first episode too much, but the first episode is probably the most exciting in the whole thing.
I was gonna tell her, go back to the very first episode to watch it, and then you can kind of jump in and kind of play catch up with it. But the first episode is must see TV for the challenge and that. So, and anybody's interested, go watch the videos and give them some love over there. But yeah, not to, again, we're getting off topic with that, but I know that had to teach you so much about not only just routes and weight and everything, but because everything has to be planned. You got to know that you've got to be able to come back and be able to throw 12 hours or 3 hours of fire on a deal. So it falls into your wheelhouse after watching you play Card Survival, because you have a very calculated way about playing the game. So I could see this being this huge calculation for you.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of close calls too, where I almost didn't make it back in time.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's enough of my self-promotion there with my challenge. But
oh, it's fine.
yeah, no, that's great. We do have quite a few questions here, so I guess let's start going through them. Pyro wants to know, how did you guys manage to get the green spray paint for the stream thumbnail? I'm gonna assume that was spawning all gear through the dev console, right, Kirk?
That was correct. So basically, what I can explain, it wasn't really hard, and I actually had to do it twice because I screwed up the first one, and Jitwire can attest to that, because the original idea picture was not nearly as nice. And so what I did was I spawned into a spot that I wanted to use, and then I used the dev console to give myself all gear. And it's quite a nightmare to do that, just so you know, because it basically gives you like 600 kilos. So if you want to learn about weight management, get the dev console, give yourself all gear, and you will learn about how much stuff you can carry on your body and not move. So you have to dump these into piles, and you can't really do but one pile. So it's ridiculous, because then you have to filter through. So then I had to filter through everything in the pile and go, okay, I want clothes over here and I want over that. It was about a 2-hour ordeal to get that picture done. But I think it was awesome when I got it done. So I was really happy with it. But that's how we got the green spray paint. There's also other items in there that, if you look closely, there's the spear from the story mode, and a couple other items that you can't get in the actual survival game. So
I did not see a ptarmigan in the thumbnail, and I was curious if you missed it or if I did.
There were a couple items I didn't get into the picture because either there was a glitch where I couldn't grab everything because I dumped everything into one pile, because there was a lot of food items I wanted to put in, and I couldn't even grab them. They had gotten messed up in the deal, and I was like, I'm not starting this over. So I put as much stuff in the picture as I could. But yeah, there's a few items that I missed.
So that reminds me. Remember you asked me about my controversial takes. I have my most controversial take. I'm quite confident that this is a controversial one. The ptarmigan bedroll is a useless item, and I never build it.
Do you just use the regular bedroll then?
Yeah, typically, but I'm just curious what everyone thinks of that. I'm willing to explain my position further.
I can't argue that it's not good in some ways. It's probably better than the weight of the bare bedroll, but I can see there's a lot of resources involved in doing it and maintaining it. Because I built one on my stalker run, and when I lost it, I was like, well, I'm not gonna, worry about this right away. If I find a bedroll, I'm just gonna live with it. And I think I did end up increasing it to that one. But I can kind of agree with you on that. I mean, there's only a few moments where you really run into a situation where that thing can save your life.
Well, I'm curious. Well, I guess we don't really have to go into it, but like, when would it be able to save your life? Because that's kind of why I don't feel like it's that useful, right? Like, it's so.
Well, I would say in an instant where you're like in the back of a cave, and it's maybe a blizzard, and but it goes in this. Okay, so this ties into the same thing you were talking about earlier. Wearing the ballistic vest is a 0.5% save your life thing. So is the bedroll in that same category?
Right. So I would say no, because, and I see where you're going with this with the back of the cave. So the reason why I don't feel like it's that valuable, first of all, you can typically sleep with just the normal bedroll, but I understand that's not a great argument. Anytime you're in a position where you're on the edge there, right? It's like, if I sleep for 10 hours, I might lose my life. There's two easy solutions to it. One is you just start a fire and sleep for 10 hours. And the other is you sleep an hour at a time, and that way you can see if it gets too cold.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could argue, like, maybe there's a situation where you don't have the fuel and you really need the healing. And I guess that comes down to, do you think you're going to get yourself into that position? I would argue that, like, it's better to make an effort to not get yourself into that position and not build the ptarmigan bedroll.
Would the ptarmigan feathers be better used for, like, that wrap that you make?
Insulated down.
Yeah.
Well, certainly I would build the insulation first, because that gives you 2 degrees, I think, right away, compared to the extra 3 that you get from the roll, but that's only from sleep. So you kind of want it right away. But even after that, I would say it's not worth it to build, because it costs 1/10 of a kilo, which I know is not much, but it's still a cost. And the other reason is, it has to be repaired more often, and it costs feathers to
Which
repair.
are not
So
always
it's like,
easy to get.
well, and it's just like, it's an extra cost, right? So even if you can technically get the feathers, and you can technically keep it repaired, it doesn't provide any additional healing. It doesn't provide any real boost, other than you could make an argument for that one case you said where, if you're going to sleep in the back of a cave and you're worried that it might blizzard and you might not have the temperature. But my argument would be, you should never do that anyway, whether you have the bedroll or not, because that's a risk of death. And
True.
You don't want to.
I get you.
You don't want to risk it either way, I guess. So
Yeah.
in that case, I would just sleep for an hour at a time.
And well, we have runs that we do where the weather's bad and you don't have the opportunity to do that bedroll. So you do learn to sleep in small increments and have a fire and stuff. So I think the way I would classify it for myself is that you're kind of putting it into the same thing as like the ballistic vest. It could be useful, but it's only going to be useful a little bit. There's this small percentage where it might actually give you that extra degree or two in a situation, or maybe like one of those runs where you don't have clothing or something silly like that. It might prove to be beneficial in that deal, but yeah, it's a low percentage usage thing where you're going to need
Well,
it.
I have to say this definitely turned into a controversial take, just as I wanted it to be, because just looking at the comments here. So, Fair Angel says, Ptarmigan are easy to get, and it's a good use of the feathers. So, absolutely true. I would argue that's, I don't think this is the wrong term, but it's almost like a sunk cost fallacy. You're trying to say, oh, I've got all these feathers, I should do something with them. And my argument is, it's like actively making your position worse, because now you have a worse bedroll that you have to maintain that's heavier. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Like, I know everyone loves the bedroll and it's fine and it feels good, right? It's like, oh, I'm upgrading my item and it's this nice, soft, improved item with this rare resource and it feels good and it's warmer.
It's a warm and fuzzy.
I guess I'm just trying to argue that logically that might not be the case. And I'm definitely willing to say, maybe I have a crazy take on this.
But there's a lot of time invested into harvesting the feathers that takes forever. So there's an argument that way too. Even if the ptarmigans are easy to find in whatever version you're doing, it's still time invested. So depending on what you're doing, like with your Frankie Fire thing, that's wasted time.
Yeah. I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah. As far as the bedroll goes, because you're making that point,
Yeah.
you're calculating every move because of time, because you've got to feed that fire. So yeah, I have one on Stalker, and I can see the argument that it probably isn't making a big difference. Once you get the clothing, you just need a place to lay your head, and then this goes into something Jetwire and I were talking about too. Is something that's way underutilized. Is you can even live without the bedroll if you can build a snow shelter.
Help! I'm under attack. This guy says, be honest, you can't catch a ptarmigan. Oh no, I've been caught. That's the real reason. That's the real reason for my crazy take.
You found him out. Archimedes can make the top of the summit without a rope, but he can't shoot a ptarmigan.
Yep.
He's been made out.
Yep.
No, I am happy to concede that this is a crazy out there take, and that most people will not agree with it.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing I could say about the ptarmigan bedroll, though, that kind of goes against it is I almost feel like it contributes to almost like that overconfidence people tend to get in the game as well, because you think, oh, I have this much warmer bedroll, I'm a little bit more safe, and I think you can actually put yourself in a bad situation while using it versus normal bedroll. Your margin for error is so much thinner as well. So I could definitely see that being an argument as well from kind of like that stance. Or I might just be crazy. That might be a thing too.
No, that's fine. I can see it from that perspective too.
So it sounds like you have a when you unfortunately, if you don't, Ark has been having trouble playing the game because of issues. But if
I can't hit a ptarmigan.
Yeah, he can't hit a ptarmigan because he can't even turn the game on. But it's an idea for you, maybe. I'll throw this out there: is a run that you do from the standpoint of your kind of your MO of efficiency. How efficiency can you make a run? Like an interloper run.
Oh gosh, nobody would watch that. It'd be so.
I watch
so
your card
ridiculous.
game, please.
The one where I spend like 3 hours to get through 2 days of playtime, like two
I won't
days.
even pick on you about that.
So, question from Pickle Lil. So, is your opinion same for the bearskin bedroll?
Okay, so the bearskin bedroll is almost the same situation, and this is the other side of the argument that I wasn't going to really get into too much. But essentially, the situation where you do want a warmer roll is if you're playing some crazy, like, outer Nagoa challenge, and you're in a situation where you want the ability to, like, pass time in a car. I don't know if you guys know this, but so cars have a 5-degree warmth bonus, and they're insulated from the wind. But then if you go to select sleep, whether you select sleep or switch to pass time, you get an extra temperature boost on top of that. You either get the flat 3 degrees from the car, or you get your bedroll boost, even if you're just passing time. So you can hop in a car, you get wind protection +5, and plus your bedroll bonus while you pass time. So the argument could be, in a crazy challenge like that, you want a warmer bedroll. And so that would seem like a case for the ptarmigan bedroll. In that case, I would argue, no, actually you want the bear bedroll, because you want another +4 on top of that, because it's going to warm you up much faster, and it's going to be useful in more cases. So yeah, either way you go at it from, yes, usually the bear is also useless, but even if you go to the other end of the spectrum where you really want that extra warmth, then it's the bear that's actually stronger than the improvised bedroll.
But then it becomes situational too, like you said. That you're putting that into a category that not a lot of people play. They're not playing it on that level of difficulty where you're at -40 degrees Celsius at a normal day. So yeah, I could see where it's kind of like what's been going on in some of our runs where it's so cold, even with the best clothing, it doesn't matter. You still have to go outside, and it's still going to be 2 down, 3 down. You just got to figure it out. But you definitely stirred the pot with this one. You get kudos for that. We stirred the pot pretty good with the cougar and falling into camp 1.0. But you've definitely stirred the pot here. You've done a great job.
I achieved my goal. I said I had a controversial take, and I followed through on it. I definitely do have a controversial take.
You did.
Man of my word.
Yep. I feel like we didn't talk too much about weight though, but that's all right. It was a good time anyway.
We sure talked a lot about that extra 1/10 of a kilogram from the improvised bedroll.
Micromanage your weight by shedding micromillimeter.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, and this is actually a really strong tactic, if you see a ptarmigan, if you throw a stone at it and miss, then you don't have to carry the ptarmigan around, and that'll save you some weight too. So just a tip. Just a tip for
top tip from Archimedes.
Everyone out there.
Oh, that was great.
You've not only have you not picked up the ptarmigan, but you shed the weight of the rock. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! See, extra built-in efficiency.
I'm not carrying this and that. So the lesson learned here is just quit taking stuff with you so much. Feed yourself, give yourself some water.
Toasty Bits, big time again is paying this guy, right?
Toasty Bits found me out. Yeah, also, the insulation, terrible item. I would much rather wear the ear wrap, even though it only gives half the warmth for the same weight. No, not really. I can't even say that. I can't even pretend to have that position.
That's like saying matches are overrated. I just use flares.
Yeah. Well, we should probably start wrapping up.
I was going to say, we kept you controversial enough that we kept you on for the entire hour, so we won that battle too.
There you go. I didn't think I had it in me, but
It's more fun than you think because like when Jitwire and I are doing this, we get off into the weeds and you just start having a fun time with chat, and an hour goes by so quickly. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
So we'll have to have you back on whenever you're feeling up to chit-chatting with us about throwing rocks at ptarmigans and leaving both behind.
Yeah,
right,
maybe
well,
we can do one on like not well-known routes or something like that. That might be fun.
Yeah, something like that. Or I was thinking maybe just like really tough challenges or something.
Oh yeah,
something along those lines. But
well, we get yelled at every time we talk about Dead World because that's like our thing. But Nogoa would be a great one to talk about too because it falls kind of in close to that category to some extent. And that, so we could definitely talk about that. And then every Sunday on the fourth Sunday, we do a Q&A thing. So, I mean, if you wanted to sit in on that, where we just let chat drive the whole conversation and answer questions. So you're welcome to join us on that too. We love having it as a roundtable. It's fun. We just love the roundtable thing, getting other opinions. It's great. So
we need to swear her for mentioning Dead World.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm going to get out of your way here and let you handle your outro. So
not a problem. So say goodbye to chat. And
yep. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks, chat. There's so many people. Sorry for all the people that I offended with my crazy takes. All right. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Art. Appreciate it. And for any of you that aren't involved, go over to his channel. Go watch what he's doing over there. It's amazing, unique, and fun to watch. So by all means, go over there and check him out. Give him some love.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
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 Thanks.
Well, and I guess with that, I can wrap us up. Unless you had any additional
No. I was going to say we need to wrap this up, and probably the best thing is look at your inventory and scrutinize. Do you really need to put this in your backpack? Do you really need it to travel? And try something new for a change, and maybe just carry the bare minimum and see how you do. And go from Thompson's Crossings to an Orca Station, and do it as light as you can, and just test it out. You'll find that you can cover more ground than you think with less. And I still need to teach myself that lesson, but you also talked about this in one of our conversations, that you were able to make it further than you thought on far less than you thought you could. So it's one of those things that you kind of got to force yourself to do and try. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. I appreciate the fact that Art came on for the full hour, and we had a good time. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Appreciate it. And Chipwire.
Yep. Thank you all so very much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.